There's a fascinating disconnect in how people perceive botulism risk. Mention home canning to many people, and they'll immediately express concern about botulism poisoning. Meanwhile, these same individuals will happily consume commercially canned products without a second thought. Let's examine whether this fear distribution actually matches the reality of risk. Clostridium botulinum produces one of the most potent toxins known to science. It thrives in low-acid, anaerobic environments, exactly the conditions created inside canned foods. The bacteria itself is everywhere in soil, but its spores require specific conditions to germinate and produce toxin. This is where the conversation gets interesting, because the risk profiles for home versus commercial canning are completely different, though not in the way most people assume. Looking at actual outbreak data from the past 3 decades reveals something surprising. Yes, home canned foods cause botulism cases, but they're relatively rare and almost always trace back to specific identifiable mistakes. Someone canned green beans without using a pressure canner. Someone didn't process for the full recommended time. Someone used a recipe from their grandmother that predates modern food safety knowledge. These are preventable errors, and home canners who follow current, tested procedures have an excellent safety record. Commercial products, on the other hand, have different failure modes. When a commercial canning operation has a problem, it's usually systematic. A pressure cooker malfunctions across an entire production run. A seal fails on thousands of cans. The contamination scale can be massive because you're dealing with industrial batch sizes. However, and this is important, the rate of these failures is extremely low because commercial operations have extensive quality control systems, multiple redundancies, and regulatory oversight that home operations don't. So where does this leave consumers? If you're buying commercial canned goods from established manufacturers in countries with strong food safety regulations, your botulism risk is vanishingly small. The greater concern with commercial products is actually the quality of ingredients going into those cans, which we've discussed elsewhere. For home canning, the risk is low if you follow proper procedures, but the consequences of errors can be severe. Here's what you need to know for home canning safety. Low-acid foods, that's vegetables, meats, fish, must be processed in a pressure canner at specific temperatures and times. There's no safe shortcut. Water bath canning is only safe for high-acid foods like fruits and pickles. Get your recipes from tested sources like University Extension Services, not random internet posts or old family handwritten recipes. Test your pressure canner's gauge annually. Inspect every jar after processing for proper sealing. The unfair stigmatization of home canning bothers me because it discourages a valuable skill while not addressing where real risks exist. Home food preservation, done correctly, gives you control over ingredients and processes that you completely lack with commercial products. You know exactly what went into those jars. You know the tomatoes were ripe, the green beans were fresh, the meat was quality. That knowledge has value. What we should fear isn't home canning itself, but ignorance of proper techniques. Education eliminates risk far more effectively than abandoning the practice entirely in favor of commercial products whose production we can never truly verify.